Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Murray Lake Master Drainage Plan Virtual Open House. I'm here in this room here with, my name is Todd Onkel. I'm the project foreman for the MD of Bonnyville, and I'm here with Brian Bisbalco, who is our general manager of infrastructure services. Joining us remotely from Bar Engineering is Chris Salma from Edmonton, and Jeffrey Grinsel from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's right, Chair.
We're here for a project after the 2020 flooding in the subdivision. The MD installed a drainage ditch to try to help in the short term, and then hired Bar Engineering to assess the overall subdivision drainage and prepare a master drainage plan. No funding has been allocated to further works at this time, but future work may be considered based on the results of this assessment. Bar has completed the bulk of their engineering work and have prepared a presentation for the community to give them an opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback before the final master drainage plan report is prepared. Questions may be submitted by pressing the button on the right side of your Teams meeting page. Since there's a 10 to 20 second delay in the presentation, submitted questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, when Bar and or the MD will try to answer as many of the submitted questions as possible. There may be an opportunity for us to do a couple of questions through the course of the presentation, but we will likely defer most questions to the end. Following the presentation, the MD can be contacted at their daytime contact number 780-826-3951, and someone, probably myself, will call you back to answer any further questions you have about this presentation. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to Chris. Chris?
Thanks, Todd. Just want to confirm if everybody can see my screen for presentation right now.
Okay, let me just, probably not, because I haven't said it there. I'll be okay, should be good to go.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. Just as a quick reminder there, what Todd said, my name is Chris Salma. I'm a senior civil engineer with Bar Engineering. I've been kind of leading this project here, working directly with the MD on this. So kind of the agenda for what we got going on here tonight, kind of go through what the study purpose is, a little bit of the background, the historical known issues, existing conditions model, so just talking about what the existing conditions are that we've noticed out there, proposed modifications based off of our modeling, next steps, and then as Todd mentioned, we'll open up for some questions at the very end. So the purpose of the study is to look at the reduction of unwanted standing water in the subdivision's ditch and culvert systems, identification of measures and options for protecting homes from flooding related to storms and spring runoff. The intent really is to minimize the surface water that's entering any of the lots out there. Drainage plan to manage the 100-year storm event. So AEP guidelines require for the 100-year storm event, and usually it's for a shorter intensity for a small drainage area like this. Based off of that information that we do there, we'll do the flood modeling of the entire watershed to understand the pre and post development runoff. Do a high level assessment of regulatory requirements and approvals. The conceptual design will be based on recommendations and requirements within AEP stormwater management guidelines. And lastly, issue a master drainage plan for the subdivision for future development for the MD. So just give a little quick background on the Murray Lake there. So the subdivision was originally developed in the late 60s into the 70s. The surface drainage in the area was managed by the lot owner during the development of their property. So culverts through approaches and drainage off the property was based entirely off of the development of the individuals. Back in June of 2020, there was a storm event. Pictures you see on the screen here are of some of the flooding there was on 2nd Street. And subsequent to that flooding event there, the MD went and performed some creek improvements in the fall of 2020. So as part of the work that we did is we kind of went and looked at the known historical issues. Partly what we did was the MD had provided their historical records that they had on file for us. We took a look at them and kind of reviewed what was in there. Did make contact to some of the landowners as well that were listed on that records. We went out and did a field assessment and some surveying back in September. When we were around there too, we just managed to talk to a few of the local landowners that happened to be around while we were doing the work. And lastly is just some issues that have been identified by the MD, just in discussions with them, their historical knowledge of the area as well. So just to kind of touch a little bit on the known historical issues there. As I mentioned, some of the driveways was installed by the owners themselves. A lot of the culverts were either undersized or there's no culverts at all, so that's creating a bit of the drainage issues out there. Majority concerns are focused in the areas at the end of the cul-de-sac here on 2nd and 3rd Street. Right along a point along here is where we have a lot of grade relief where it gets down to the lake level, and that's kind of contributing to the runoff that's coming down the roads and getting into these areas. Pictures were kind of reflecting that as well too. There's just some known local flooding issues too within some lots, and that's associated with culverts that either don't drain properly or that the ditching isn't adequate within the roadway.
Yeah, just try. I can do it right now.
Todd, is it possible you guys could mute your line there, please? Thank you. So part of doing the review that we did is we got some LiDAR information. So it's based off of satellite photography, as well as we had performed some ground survey while we were out there. And what we ended up doing was modeling kind of the area just to see where we're getting issues, see how it related to the discussions we'd had from the local landowners and the information we had been provided by the MD. The key area to focus on obviously is this red area, is kind of the outline of where the significant flooding is. There's issues within individual locations with respect to culverts and a little bit of ditching in that, but this is the substantial drainage area that's been having the problems in that. One of the key things to note with this is there's this dashed blue line in here. So this is a minor drainage course, kind of runs between the creek over to the south side, and then it comes out towards the lake on the north side here, more the west side, I guess. Actually, north is off to the right side of the page. A couple things to point out is that there's a low point right in the lot here, and with respect to the drainage in that as well, the water does release to either the creek or the lake when it gets high enough, but it typically has to get around 1 to 2 feet in depth before it gets to that point based off of our modeling. Just come a couple other points noted is the culvert that was installed up in here by the MD is adequate for the 100-year storm event, but it does hold up about 2 feet depth, 3 feet depth of water. So it does pass, but water will back up behind it. Just overall too, just the grades within the area in here do not accommodate drainage out of here very freely, just due to it being such a low point in here. It's just a quick little snapshots too that were provided by the MD during the flooding. Key point to note is where you can see the water line along here is along the edge of the pavement. So that's kind of reflecting what we're seeing as well in our modeling. As well, the property adjacent here is experiencing underwater, and photos very much are similar to what you see on our modeling too. So that was a good indication that what we've done with our modeling is quite realistic to what has been seen out there. So we're fairly confident that the information that we've used for our study and that is reflective of the true conditions. So noted that the key flooding areas was along these properties at the bottom of the hill and that. the water kind of wants to go there on its own. So what we've wanted to do, as opposed to trying to direct water away from areas where make it go uphill, if you will, trying to make it accommodate it a little better, is we wanted to work with gravity on this project and felt it was the best way to go. So in order, what we had planned to do is convey that water through these municipal reserves that are along at the bottom of each cul-de-sac. And with that, we'll be able to direct the water away from the properties and get it to the lake where it wants to go. So I'll kind of just step you through each little section that we have here. So the orange line, the intent is to intercept the water that comes to the bottom of the road. And we're going to convey it across to the south. And then from there, carry it across to the Queensland, basically right in here. Conversely, the blue will be done the same way, where we're going to take it from a point in here. Quite a bit of erosion in here, so we're going to clean up this ditch. Is the intended, carry it through the municipal reserve in this side, and then common point in here, and then this would have a ditch out towards the lake. And this would all be gravity drained on the surface, and then through the municipal reserve here, there'd be some walking paths as well, just to accommodate traffic or individuals still wanting to get down towards the lake and where they have their boats. The yellow line, same idea, except there's a lot more problems with respect to the water leaving the channels and that. So we are going to we're proposing to put ditching all the way down here with culverts, and again going through the municipal reserve, and in this instance we're going to carry it right out to the creek. As I mentioned before too, that the creek itself with the culvert in there does actually back up with water 2 to 3 feet deep. Even though this culvert meets the 1 in 100, based on the modeling and with the water backing up, and that we're proposing that this actually be removed from the creek and opened up so that you can have free drainage through the creek, and that will lower the water so it won't back up down this yellow line. Based off of the current grades, and that there's not a lot of grade relief. I think a lot of people are, especially those in this area, are quite aware of that. So by doing that, it's going to allow the water to flow freely and get out of this area. There's some localized flooding that had been noted as well, and that was related to this culvert being open at the end and just going directly into the property. With the ditching changes and improvements, we're going to contain in the water coming down the slope here, and making sure that we carry it off down through. And that's keeping in line with the intent there of trying to keep water on the MD's property where possible and not letting it going to the adjacent properties. There's just quick little photos here of out in the area just to help people reference the points in there. Back to the orange area here again. So we'd be looking at putting a ditch along through that road allowance just in front of the property in here. And I believe there's a driveway in here, in which case we'd have to put a culvert across. And then that from that point beyond, we would carry through to the municipal reserve. Just a quick look down 2nd Street here. You can see this is kind of where the culvert opens up, and it doesn't have a complete ditch to contain the water. So that's where we would do the extra ditching work in here to carry that through. And on the other side, same thing, just from this driveway basically going down, and from either side going right and left out to the municipal reserves. In the common point down in here in between, it's a low spot here right now where water collects already. So we're taking advantage of that. And what we're going to do is just in this photo is it collects roughly in this area here, and going to open up a proper channel to allow that ditch to release out into the lake. On the yellow side here, there's a photo here along this property. There's a private driveway in here, so we'd have to go underneath there, and beyond that, open ditch within the road allowance and out through the municipal reserve between the trees. And then lastly, here's the existing culvert. One thing I'll touch base on too that I missed on the previous drawing as well is to help try and maintain or divert some of the water away that comes down the road, is proposing to put a culvert in across through the road here. So this would get us to the east side of Marie Drive and then carry down towards the creek channel here, and then get out to the lake that way. So it's still going to take the water to the lake as it wants to go, but the intent is to try and keep it away from going down 2nd Street and reduce the amount of water that's coming into the area. With respect to the work as well, any changes that we're doing to release water to the lake or towards the creek, we'll have to do permitting through AEP as part of the process as well. So the requirement with that would be to AEPs indicating what we've designed this to, as well as to show that we're minimizing any sediment or any kind of contaminants that might be going into the lake and that. So kind of the next steps that we're looking at here is the purpose of this meeting, obviously, as Todd had mentioned, was to get it out in front of the general public here and help them understand what some of the plans that we're looking at doing in that, and getting some feedback both from what we've modeled. Is it reflective of what the residents have seen out there? Obviously, I've only been out there a few times, and it's been within the last summer here, so I haven't necessarily seen everything that's gone over the last number of years there. As well, too, is just an opportunity to communicate to you guys what we are looking at going forward. Next steps after that would be just to develop the overall master drainage plan, finalize that and get it into the hands of the MD. And then lastly, going forward, is to implement the program itself, and that'll be based off of approval by council. Once that's got the indication to go ahead, and that a detailed design would have to performed, as well as AEP permitting would be required just to advance the construction. That concludes kind of the presentation we had right now. I'll kind of open it up for any questions there, and Todd, you're welcome to pose any questions to me as well too, if you have any.
Anyways, thanks, Chris. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please submit them, and we'll address them. We don't see any on the screen right now here. I guess now, sorry, we were dealing with a little bit of a technical issue here, Chris, while you were presenting. Now, on your drainage paths, if you can go back to your slide that shows all the different drainage paths. Yeah, that one. Now we're showing the drainage path going down the walkway allowances there. Have you described in your presentation on how there was going to be still walking allowance for walking along those? Yeah, that's the intent that we're going to do along here is provide surface drainage along here, but the intent is that with people requiring access down to their boats and that will allow it or design it to have some room in there so that they can still do that. And as far as our existing culvert that we put in shortly after the flooding there, you're saying that is sufficient for the 100-year, but could potentially back up water, and so could be upsized?
Yeah, you're correct. And actually, from what we've done with our initial modeling, and it's based on high level stuff, so on detailed design, the information might change slightly, but the idea right now is that we'd have to go to an open ditch on that, and it'd be quite a large culvert to try and accommodate the flows that would be going through there.
Okay, so if we have an open ditch there, as well as where the teal blue line is there, as far as any sort of existing walking trails, we'd have to look at installing some sort of either culvert crossing or a little bridge or something.
Yeah, that's right. And to accommodate traffic, something, or pedestrians, something would have to be provided for their use. Yeah.
Okay, so what I will do is I will start with one of the questions that was asked here. It says, how are you sure the culvert going one way on 3rd Street will catch the water? Chris, do you want to field that one, please?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks, Brian. So what we're going to do is with the entrance of the culvert right across through here, we're going to make sure that when the water comes down off of the last culvert on this driveway here, is doing the ditching necessary to capture it in here. If necessary, we can do some berming in here too, just to help direct the water into it, and that'll carry it through a new culvert that'll get installed underneath the roadway here. So we'll do what we can as far as it goes for improvements right around the end of this existing culvert and at the new culvert, just to capture it and convey it in the direction as indicated on the drawing.
That's what I was talking to him.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I have another question here. It says, the open ditches you propose doesn't state tree damage or size of ditch. Can you field that, please?
Yeah, for sure. We hadn't gotten into a detailed design as far as it goes to know the exact size of the ditch through there. So it's difficult at this time to even understand maybe what we would have out there for some ditch or tree damage, sorry. Realize that within some of these municipal reserves, there's some trees in there. The intent would be to do what we can to minimize it. In some instances, unfortunately, some trees may have to be taken out, but overall the intent is to try and remove the water so it doesn't get on individuals' property. So all measures will be taken to try and do that first and foremost, but as well to try and minimize any impact with respect to the trees out there.
Okay, thank you. Another question. What consideration was given to the drainage ditch that was installed? Do you have enough information on that question to field an answer?
I believe it's written in reference to the one we're talking about here, the new one being installed in that. What considerations given to the drainage ditch that was installed? So what we looked at was the water collects naturally in here right now. In order to try and divert it around anywhere else, it was actually really difficult based off of the grading in the area. It's really flat down through, especially on 2nd Street, which I think the residents on that street could definitely back up that there's a lot of flat area in there. So the intent is to work with what's actually Mother Nature's doing. So there's the low spot in here, which actually is sitting about 1 meter higher than what the lake is still. So really it was the intent to collect the water here and open up the ditch and drainage to get across through here. The detailed design will prove out a lot more with respect to what the diameter or size of ditch would be. But the intent would be is to carry it through there. We've taken a real good look at it. We've tried to find other ways, if possible, to get to the creek, but just based off of the lots out there and the relief of the land, this was deemed probably the most advantageous one.
All right, thank you, Chris. Another question came in. Are there tax implications for the subdivision? I'll do my best to field that one. If you're asking if there's going to be any specific tax to the residents of Murray Lake, I don't have that answer for you right now. I would suspect that it would be part of our drainage, part of our operations budget or a capital budget for if new infrastructure is required for that. So specifically tax implications for the residents there, I can't answer that specifically, but I will get an answer for you, and we can post it on the questions, maybe on our website, or contact this caller or this individual directly for an answer. Okay, another question came in. It might be a follow-up here. I think the drainage ditch installed stopped a lot of the problem. Why all the rest now? So why are we looking at doing additional work? I think that is what this question is asking. Who would like to field that one?
I can take that one, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, just with respect to that, Definitely the work that was done by the MD has helped a lot. There's no doubt that the drain that was coming down through the creek is carried down to the lake. But our modeling's indicated that a lot of the drainage that still hits in this area in here on the bottom of 2nd Street primarily and behind some of the properties on 3rd Street is still going to collect in there. It's actually a bit lower, and the ground on either side here is about 2 feet higher. So there's still water that's going to pond in here based off our modeling. 2021, I think, was a fairly good year for precipitation or lack thereof. So might not have been seen at that time, in the creek on its own had completed the work there that was necessary to minimize any kind of flooding. As far as it goes through going forward, there's still the possibility, quite likely from our modeling, that this will flood here, and that's the direction that we were using to carry things forward.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I hope that answered that question. If it didn't, if any of these questions weren't answered to your satisfaction, anybody that's listening in, please ask a follow-up question or just maybe expand on the question that you drafted in the first place, and we'll do our best to answer that for you.
Brian, I think there was a question that came in earlier too, just with respect to asking if groundwater was considered in the analysis that we had performed in that. And we had not looked at groundwater specifically to see what comes into the lake through that route. But when we do our modeling, we do use different numbers with respect to what we get for runoff versus what enters the groundwater. So what we used was a number that represents a certain percentage of the water either ponding and not contributing to the runoff, or it's actually entering through groundwater being intercepted. So our modeling has indirectly considered any kind of groundwater infiltration that will be experienced out in there, knowing that it's sandy conditions too. We used a rather low number actually, just to make sure that we didn't over-represent what was coming from surface runoff. Okay, another question. Why not divert all the water from the top of 2nd, I'm guessing 2nd Street there, from coming down the hill at all? So why not stop the water there? I think from what we've been seeing in there, it'd be very difficult to do. The only thing that we've had looked at, sorry, just let me click forward a slide here, is capturing what we can coming down off of the couple of top lots here, intercepting that and getting that across. So that's the one reduction we're doing in there. But with the way the hill comes down here, there's going to be a percentage that's going to come down that we have to manage. So it's the portion up here that we're going to try and divert what we can to reduce what's coming down. But we're still expecting, based off of the modeling, that we're going to get the water coming down. And we did our modeling to represent diverting what we can to this east side of Marie Drive as well. So there's a percentage we can remove, but we don't believe that we can remove enough to mitigate the drainage issues that are down here and to eliminate any of this drainage on either side.
All right. Another question. If we are against any of this work, what should we do? So as residents, that's why we're doing this open house, to do the presentation of what the modeling is and what our proposed solutions are to mitigate these issues. If you are opposed to any of these, or if you have any suggestions or comments about this, we'd be happy to discuss them with you and see how your comments differ or can align with the engineering, so that maybe we can look at something a little different. But as it is right now, the modeling shows that this is probably one of the best case solution to this. But if there's something we can do to change, if maybe we're missing something, then we can definitely take that into consideration. Do you have anything to say, Chris or Jeff?
I think the only thing is just to reiterate what you just said there, Brian, is that, yeah, we've done what we can based off of the modeling and the knowledge that we have. So if there's some information that we can gain from the local residents and that'll help us understand some of the situations there, definitely we'd be open to hearing it.
And also, I'll say that this is in the preliminary stages. This is just in some conceptual design stages where we're just doing modeling and seeing what the best solution is. We're not into construction or anything at this stage right now. So this is the time to get your comments in. And if there are any changes, this is the time for them to be made.
And if you are opposed to kind of what we're conceptualizing here, now is the time to let us know, either through a call to the MD office or a letter to us, just saying that you watched the presentation and this is how you feel about some of the proposed solutions. And that way we have it on record when we do go forward and make some decisions. We are aware of what the level of resident support for some of these solutions would be.
Excellent, yes. And a follow-up to that is, are you willing to have an on-site meeting to discuss? We are willing to meet with the public on this for sure. What I would say right now, because we're in winter months, maybe right now isn't the best time, but we can definitely make some arrangements even to meet with residents on site right now. The best thing you can do is right now just call into the MD office at 780-826-3951. That's 780-826-3951, and ask to speak to Todd. Todd would, take your questions, and then what we could do in the interim between this and an on-site visit is Todd can chat with Chris and Jeff and try to get some additional information on this, and then we can maybe do some preparation for an on-site meeting. And then another follow-up says, I don't believe you guys are reaching enough people out here. What I will say to that is that we tried to engage as many people as we could. We had some signage out there for how long? Couple weeks?
1 week.
For 1 week, we had a message board out there. We also did some emailing and some phoning directly to people. So, we're trying our best to contact as many people as we can to join into these kind of forums so that we can get as much public engagement as we can. Obviously, with COVID, our protocols have changed. We would like to have done this in a face-to-face meeting, but it just didn't happen. So we're doing the best we can with this for sure.
Something we did do is we have kept records of anybody that called in over the last year or two or during the flooding time who phoned in about flooding on their property. And we did contact anybody who had called in during those times to let them know about this presentation.
Yeah, and further to the caller's comment, I hear exactly what you're saying about reaching enough people. Like I said, we're trying our best to do what we can to get a hold of as many people as we can. Maybe this is just step one to another public engagement, maybe in the summertime where there might be more people on site, out for a weekend, that kind of thing. So we're trying our best here to get as many people engaged as we can.
Before we did proceed with any work, that's something we could also consider is another level of public engagement before we did actually proceed. Right now, we're preparing this preliminary engineering report this report, when it gets acted on, there'll be further steps before blades go in the ground, so.
That's correct. I'll piggyback on what Todd was saying, is that, again, this is our first round of public engagement. This is our chance to, maybe get some feedback from the public. Again, maybe there's something that we're missing that is, specific out there that, our modeling didn't pick up. And we would love to hear from, from the general public. Again, this is our first round. Maybe the second round would incorporate some of the comments, and this might look a little different the next go around. But we're, like I said, we have to start somewhere with this public engagement. I'm just waiting here. I know that there's a delay on this, so I'm just waiting to give people time to ask any additional questions if there are. So, okay, I don't see any additional questions. I don't want to cut it off too early, just in case there are some, but I don't see any. So again, to kind of reiterate a little bit, I hope this has been informational for the residents out there at Murray Lake, and we will have this recorded. So if there's anybody that if there's anybody out there that would benefit from listening to this and might have some comments as well, we will have a link on our website to the recorded version of this, and then we can any questions can be submitted to our office for any answers, or to help us with the redrafting or modeling of our solutions here.
We are aware that some people may have had technical issues getting on or answering questions. So if you do know anybody that did have difficulties in the community, we would definitely appreciate if you let them know that we will be posting this presentation on the website.
Another question came in. I think there might have been. It says we have a Fire Smart, and it must have got cut off, but I'm guessing that was supposed to be, we have a Fire Smart meeting. I'm guessing. If I'm wrong, please correct me in this. Said if you get actual drawings, can we get copies? We should be able to supply some copies of what is proposed right now on our website that you can download. So that should be available to anybody who wants to see what we have proposed right now. We can put that on our website for anybody to look at. That shouldn't be an issue. And this way, anybody who needs a copy of these drawings can have them. And like I said, if there's any specific questions, you can always get a hold of us at the MD shop. Get a hold of Todd at 780-826-3951. That's 780-826-3951. And like I said previously, we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. All right. All right, I don't.
Will there be a record of those questions, Jerry? Okay.
All right. I'm talking actual drawings with ditch dimensions. Do we have that, Chris? Do we have that information? Like the actual drawings with ditch dimensions? I'm guessing maybe culvert dimensions, all that sort of stuff. Do we have that information available?
We hadn't done anything with any drawings on it. We've just done some high level modeling at this time. So we've used some very limited design on that. We've assumed that it's a 1 meter ditch, 3 to 1 side slopes is what we used at this time. The actual dimensions would change perhaps based off of more detailed design. It was based off of LiDAR information, which is very high level with the trees in there. It definitely impacts some of the information as well. So a deeper effort would be required with survey and everything to really refine things. So that ditch size that we're looking at right now would definitely change, I think, from what we've considered at this time.
If the MD of Bonnyville chose to go forward with this work and funded this work, one of the tasks that the engineer would be given would be to produce a set of detailed design drawings for contractors' use, and at that time we would have something a little more. At this point, we're at the preliminary engineering stage, so most of the stuff is conceptual, but as far as actual pipe sizes and ditch sizes, those would be items that would come out through a detailed design as opposed to the preliminary.
Okay, we have another question here. There are existing buried culverts below driveways at the top of 2nd Street. Will they be replaced?
So we tried to pick up within our survey what we could find. I honestly would be not surprised to see culverts out there. Obviously, over years, they're not going to be well maintained. With respect to them being opened up in that's probably something that could occur on the yellow side where we were talking before. That's where we're looking at doing some improvements, and then further down at the bottom half on 2nd Street on the north side there as well. That'd be done on the further up slope on the hill. There wasn't proposed to be anything done along there. There's a culvert out there for sure, and from what we had seen, didn't look like there was any substantial drainage issues. And again, with carrying the water through a new culvert across to Marie Drive will reduce the amount of water that's coming down to begin with, I guess, on the north side there.
Okay. What I will say is that, you know, if there's any buried culverts or anything like that, with the new ditching, if there needs to be, you know, culverts put back in or opened up or that kind of thing, they would all be replaced if it was, you know, if that's the way that the flow is supposed to go. So I don't see that being an issue. Question, are you guys going to use spring runoff to see how the existing ditch is working? Because this is all in a conceptual stage, I would, and there's nothing really scheduled for construction in the 2022 season, I would suspect that we would be using any type of information to help us with this project. That would include monitoring what the spring runoff would be, so that we can, you know, see how things are currently running, and you know, perhaps that would change what the modeling would be. You know, Chris, you want to maybe add something to that, or Todd?
We'd probably also be monitoring public feedback as well. We do get a fairly frequent amount of calls during rain events on where there are flooding issues, and sometimes no news from the community in a rain event would be a sign that the ditch was working. Where people would give us a call, and they would, most of the time they would tell us something wasn't working, but we do appreciate if somebody calls us and let us know that something is working too.
Yeah, I wouldn't have much to add apart from, you know, when I am up in the area, I always make a point of driving by some of these sites that I've done some work on, and that just to see if there's something different every time that I'm up there that I might not have noticed before. So Definitely, in addition to the MD being out there when warranted, I definitely would pop out whenever I'm in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff, sorry.
That would be a hydrologic event that we would consider before finalizing design, would be that spring snow melt.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's free information for us. Watching the spring thaw, that's free information for us. So we would definitely be watching that for sure. I hope that answered that question. I hope we answered the question about the buried culverts and
something about those buried culverts. If there is an existing culvert and through engineering analysis says that it's sufficient size to handle what it needs to handle and it's in good condition, we likely wouldn't replace it. We'd probably replace the ones that are undersized and or not functioning properly.
And the modeling will tell us what size of culverts are supposed to go in there, that kind of thing. So they'll be sized accordingly to the flood event that we're modeling to. All right, I don't see any more questions. However, I'm going to give about another minute for anything to come in. Oh, hang on. Here's another one. Has public lands been consulted on plans to drain water to the lake north side? So, Chris, you want to handle that one? I would suspect that because this is all conceptual, any environmental permitting will be done at the design stage.
Yeah, that's correct, Brian. At this point, we were just kind of doing a high level assessment on it. Just the expectation is that we would have to put some applications into AEP to get permission to do that. So it would be part of the standard process to get the permitting done with that. And that'd be completed during the detailed design once that's completed, because they always want something that's a more advanced than what we've gotten to date as well for the drainage proposed out there.
Right, and that goes for public lands as well, because if the ditching is going to be crossing the bed and shore, we would definitely be addressing all permits, whether they're water or lands. Okay, comment here is we have a Fire Smart event every spring. Have someone come out to it to reach more people. Great suggestion. We can keep in touch with when that Fire Smart event is, and perhaps we can come out at that time and reach more people. That's a great way to to get more public engagement for sure. And maybe in between now and then, if some comments come in, maybe this is after the runoff. Maybe we have some more information that we can share with the public. So great comment, and that's something that is definitely doable to couple this with with another event or another meeting that's happening out there at the same time. So thank you for that.
Do we know when those Fire Smart events are, Ryan?
There's no comment here about when it is, but I'm hoping that whoever's in charge of the Fire Smart program would be in contact with our office and let us know those dates so we can plan for something, have some information prepared, and perhaps if we can get bar engineering out there to answer some more questions, that would be great. Maybe we can do a little walk around with the public to see some specific items or some specific issues. So yeah, like I said, great comment and a great way to help to help us get out there. The event is usually in June, so again, if we can, that's great. We can plan for sometime in June, but let us know the date, and we will we'll make every effort possible to send somebody out there with some information and maybe some up-to-date information. And like I said, with the spring runoff, maybe things have changed. So that's excellent. Thank you. So I'm looking back in some of the questions. I hope we answered everything. The only one that I feel that needs a follow-up were the tax implication question. And like I said, that we can definitely get an answer to you. And you know, we might have that. We'll probably have that information shortly, but we can always bring that out to the June meeting. That's out there as well, so we can have that information for you as well. Again, if any of the questions maybe either didn't get through or weren't answered to as specifically as you wanted, please contact our office again at 780-826-3951 and ask for Todd. Todd will be able to help you out, or at least take your information, take your question, and we should be able to respond, you know, promptly with an answer if we can. Again, I'm just waiting for the time delay to catch up. Maybe in about, I'll give it another 1 minute to see if any new questions come in. If not, we could probably sign off after that 1 minute. So we'll give 1 more minute here. And again, you know, we apologize for the technical issues that happened here with the delays and everything. And I'm glad that people were able to reconnect with us and have a great open dialogue about this project. I'll give another 30 seconds for any additional questions. And once again, these recordings will be on our website for anybody to watch again, or forward on to somebody who may have missed the meeting and wants the information on what was discussed here today. Again, we'll have these drawings on our website. The presentation we'll have on our website, so that anybody who wants to look at this again can. All right, that's been about, probably been a couple minutes already since our last question. Actually, it's been about 4 minutes since our last question. I hope that's enough time. I can't see any other questions coming in. Todd, I'll throw it to you for some closing remarks if there are any.
Yep. Thank you for coming back to us. And like Brian said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call, and we'll answer them offline here.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good night.